The planet Xylaria glimmered like a jewel against the blackness of space. Its cities rose high with towers of silver and crystal, reflecting the pale blue light of its 3 suns. At the heart of the capital, in a palace of floating spires and cascading gardens, Princess Lyra prepared for an event that the whole planet would watch with curiosity and some unease. Today she was to meet her new husband, an ambassador from Earth, a human named Ethan. Lyra had grown up surrounded by beauty, knowledge, and the strict traditions of her people. The Xylarians were tall, graceful, with skin that shimmered faintly in the light, and minds trained from birth to master the secrets of energy manipulation, mathematics, and diplomacy. They had built their civilization over thousands of years, and their culture prized intelligence above all else. Humans, by contrast, were unpredictable, emotional, and fragile. At least that was what everyone told her. Lyra, however, had always believed in forming her own opinions. She entered the grand hall of the palace, her robes flowing like liquid light, and surveyed the waiting guests. Counselors, scholars, and dignitaries from every corner of Xylaria whispered among themselves, their faces a mixture of excitement and doubt. The humans were an unknown quantity. Many expected the match to be more political than meaningful, a symbol of unity between worlds. But Lyra knew she would not be satisfied with mere ceremony. She wanted to see for herself what humans were truly like. Ethan waited near the entrance, looking every bit as ordinary as the reports had suggested. He was shorter than the average Xylarians, his skin pale in the bright hall, and his movements a little awkward in the flowing robes he had been asked to wear. But his eyes held a spark of curiosity, of alertness and of kindness. Lyra noticed it immediately, and she could not suppress a small smile. "Princess Lyra," Ethan said, bowing slightly. His voice was calm and steady, and despite his apparent frailty, there was a quiet confidence about him. "It is an honor to meet you." Lyra inclined her head gracefully. "Ambassador Ethan, the honor is mine. I hope you find Xylaria to your liking." Ethan looked around in wonder. "It is more beautiful than I imagined. Your cities, your gardens, even the air feels different. I can sense the energy here. It's alive." Lyra raised an eyebrow. Humans rarely spoke in such precise ways about abstract forces. Most of them struggled with concepts that the Xylarians considered simple. Yet here was Ethan, describing the energy of her planet with a clarity that surprised her. Perhaps there was more to him than she had expected. The ceremony began with the traditional exchange of vows. Lyra spoke with her usual poise, promising to honor the values of her people and to support her new husband. Ethan repeated the words carefully, clearly making an effort to match the rhythm and tone of Xylarian speech. It was not perfect, but it was sincere, and that mattered more than flawless pronunciation. After the formalities, the guests gathered in the palace gardens for the welcoming feast. Floating platters of shimmering fruit, crystallized pastries, and delicacies infused with energy pulses circled the tables. Lyra guided Ethan along the paths lined with glowing flora, explaining the customs and history of each part of the palace. "You must understand," Lyra said gently. "Our people are highly structured. We value knowledge and precision. Humans are unusual to us. Many think they are weak, or that they cannot truly comprehend our ways." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "I know humans are different, but sometimes being different is a strength. We see the world in ways others do not. Maybe that can help both of our people." Lyra was silent for a moment. His words were simple, almost naive, but they carried a conviction that made her pause. Could it be that humans had something the Xylarians lacked? Something beyond tradition and inherited knowledge? She resolved to observe him carefully. As the day progressed, Ethan explored more of the palace. He marveled at the floating libraries, the energy gardens, and the machines that seemed to bend light itself. He asked questions, not the kind expected of a diplomat, but questions that showed curiosity, imagination, and an eagerness to understand. Lyra watched him as he experimented with a small energy device, adjusting its flow with careful hands and a bright smile when he succeeded. He was learning through trial and error, a method Xylarians seldom used. They preferred theory and calculation over experimentation. Ethan's approach was different, and she found it fascinating. "Princess," Ethan said later, after he had stumbled upon an ancient archive, "I think humans can offer perspectives your people may never consider. I don't mean to challenge your traditions, but sometimes solutions come from unexpected places." Lyra studied him. He was polite, respectful, but there was an unmistakable fire in his words. She felt a flutter of anticipation. Perhaps this union would be more than political. Perhaps it could be the beginning of something extraordinary. Despite her intrigue, Lyra remained cautious. The palace walls hid more than beauty. They hid politics, envy, and suspicion. Many counselors whispered about the human ambassador, questioning his worthiness, wondering how a fragile human could ever contribute meaningfully to Xylarian society. Some even suggested he was a symbol to distract the populace, a novelty rather than a true partner for the princess. Lyra knew that appearances could be deceiving. Ethan's outward fragility did not mean he was weak. She decided she would allow him to prove himself, not through ceremony but through action. And soon she would have the opportunity. As night fell on Xylaria, the suns dipped low, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. The palace lit up with thousands of floating lights, reflecting on the crystal towers. Lyra walked with Ethan along the gardens where the air was alive with soft hums of energy. The alien flora glowed faintly, responding to their presence, and the water features shimmered with delicate pulses. "Ethan," Lyra said, breaking the silence. "I must admit, I expected someone different. You seem ordinary." Ethan laughed softly, a sound that carried warmth. "I know, humans are not perfect, but we try. And sometimes even the ordinary can do extraordinary things if given a chance." Lyra looked at him closely. There was sincerity in his expression, a calm determination. Perhaps he truly believed it. Perhaps he was different, not in strength or stature, but in mind and spirit. She felt a sense of curiosity she had not known before. "You speak boldly for someone so new to our world," she replied. "I will admit. I'm curious to see what you can do. Actions speak louder than words, after all." Ethan's eyes sparkled. "Then I will do my best. Not just for you, Princess, but for your people as well. I hope one day you will see that humans have more to offer than you might think." Lyra smiled faintly, a mixture of amusement and admiration. She did not yet know the full measure of this human, but for the first time in her life, she felt the thrill of unpredictability, the excitement of someone who could surprise her. The night ended with a quiet promise of discovery. Ethan had entered Xylaria as a curious visitor, a human ambassador of fragile appearance, but his mind and heart carried potential the alien world had never witnessed. Lyra retired to her chambers, thinking not of politics or duty but of the strange, fascinating man who might just change everything. As she drifted into sleep, the palace hummed softly with energy, as if sensing the beginning of something new. Somewhere, far across the galaxy, humans had already begun to leave their mark on the stars. And Princess Lyra, who had thought her human husband Harmless, could not have imagined how extraordinary his presence would truly become. The suns of Xylaria shone bright and warm as the morning began, filling the palace with soft golden light. Princess Lyra walked through the floating gardens, her mind still lingering on the human ambassador, Ethan. He had quickly adapted to her world, showing curiosity and courage that no one could have predicted, yet she still did not fully understand him. How could someone so seemingly fragile, so unlike a Xylarian's, manage to make such an impression on her? The palace was alive with the usual energy hums, the soft vibrations that flowed through the city's energy network. But today something was wrong. A deep, low resonance began to echo through the palace walls, a vibration that made the crystal towers quiver slightly. It was a warning. The energy core of Xylaria, the heart of their civilization, was unstable. Lyra's advisors rushed to her side. "Princess," one of them said urgently, "the energy readings are off the charts. A solar flare is approaching. It will hit Xylaria within hours. If the energy core is not stabilized, the entire planet could be in danger." Lyra's heart raced. She had witnessed natural disturbances before, but never one of this magnitude. The Xylarians were masters of energy, yet even they could not always predict the forces of their suns. She turned to Ethan, who was observing the readings with keen interest. "This is serious," she said. "Do you understand what is happening?" Ethan nodded. His brow furrowed and he leaned closer to the holographic display. "Yes, I think so. The solar flare is massive. It will overload your energy core if it is not properly managed. But maybe there is a way to redirect the energy. It will require combining systems in ways your people have not tried before." Lyra's advisors gasped. "Redirect energy in ways untested? That is reckless. Ethan looked at Lyra calmly. Sometimes the usual methods are not enough. We have to think differently. If we follow only tradition, the core will fail. We need new ideas. Lyra hesitated. The Council had never tolerated deviation from established protocols, and yet she could see the determination in Ethan's eyes. He was not reckless. He was confident in his problem-solving. His calmness in the face of crisis inspired her. Very well, she said firmly. We will try his way. We have no other choice. The palace buzzed with energy as the engineers and advisors began to implement Ethan's plan. He suggested rerouting excess energy from unused sectors of the city, combining energy fields in overlapping grids to absorb the solar flare's impact. The Xylarians had never done this. They were meticulous and precise, but rigid. Ethan's approach was unconventional, relying on intuition as much as calculation. Hours passed. The solar flare approached, growing larger in the sky, casting long shadows over the floating towers. Lyra watched anxiously as Ethan guided the engineers, his hands moving confidently, adjusting energy channels with a combination of logic and experimentation. He explained things clearly, showing diagrams and projections, translating human concepts into the alien language of energy manipulation. At first, there were mistakes. Some energy nodes overloaded, sending sparks and pulses across the grid. The Council murmured their doubts. A human cannot succeed, one of the senior engineers whispered. We should follow the old ways, but Ethan did not panic. He calmly analyzed each failure, adjusted the channels, and tried again. With each iteration, the system grew stronger, more stable. The solar flare loomed closer, yet his confidence never wavered. Lyra found herself holding her breath, feeling both fear and awe. She had never seen someone face danger with such composure and focus. Finally, the moment came. The solar flare hit Xylaria, a brilliant wave of light and energy rushing toward the planet. For a tense few seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then slowly, the energy core responded. The grids absorbed the excess energy, distributing it safely across the city's systems. Sparks of energy shimmered like fireflies across the towers, and a low hum filled the air as the planet stabilized. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. The human had done it. He had saved the planet. The Council, who had doubted him, now stared in astonishment. Ethan turned to Lyra, his expression calm but satisfied. The core is stable, he said simply. Lyra stepped forward, her heart racing. You did it, she said, her voice filled with wonder. You actually did it, Ethan smiled modestly. We did it. Your people helped me. I just suggested a different approach. The Council remained silent, processing what had just happened. A human, someone they had considered fragile and harmless, had found a solution that Xylarians had not even imagined. It was a revelation. The old idea that humans were weak was shattered in an instant. That evening, the palace held a quiet ceremony to honor the efforts of everyone involved. Lyra made a speech, praising the courage and intelligence shown during the crisis. She singled out Ethan, recognizing him not just as her husband, but as someone who had demonstrated brilliance and ingenuity beyond expectation. Today, we have learned something important, Lyra said, her voice strong and clear. Sometimes wisdom is not only found in tradition, sometimes it is found in curiosity, creativity, and courage. Ethan has shown us that even the smallest among us can make a difference. Ethan nodded, feeling both honored and humbled. He knew he had succeeded not by being the strongest, but by thinking differently, observing carefully and working with others. It was a lesson he had learned on Earth, and it was now proving true on Xylaria as well. After the ceremony, Lyra and Ethan walked through the gardens once more. The crisis had passed, but its impact lingered. Lyra looked at Ethan with a new respect. I have underestimated you, she admitted. I thought humans were fragile, harmless, but you have shown me that is far from true. Ethan smiled softly. I never thought of myself as stronger or better. I just try to see things differently. Sometimes that is enough. Lyra nodded, feeling a spark of admiration. She had always believed strength was measured in tradition, discipline, and control. But she now understood that courage, creativity, and insight were forms of strength too, perhaps even more important ones. Over the following days, Ethan became more integrated into Xylarian society. He continued to explore the palace and the city, asking questions, learning, and sharing ideas. He worked with the engineers to improve energy efficiency, using methods no Xylarians had considered before. People began to notice. Slowly, skepticism turned into respect. Lyra watched him closely. She had seen many humans before, but none had captured her attention in this way. Ethan's kindness, intelligence, and problem-solving skills made him stand out, not just to her, but to everyone around him. She realized that she was beginning to rely on his perspective, to seek his insight when challenges arose. It was a strange feeling for a princess accustomed to relying solely on her own judgment, but it was a welcome one. One evening, as the sun set and the floating gardens glowed in soft shades of violet and gold, Ethan approached Lyra with a small device in his hands. It pulsed with energy, unlike anything she had seen before. "I've been studying this ancient archive," he said. "It contains energy patterns your scholars thought impossible to decode. I think we can use it to improve the city's systems even further." Lyra looked at the device, her eyes wide. "You are still finding new solutions, after everything we have done?" Ethan nodded. "There is always more to learn, and sometimes the solutions we need are hidden in places no one thought to look." Lyra smiled, a mixture of pride and awe. She realized that this human, whom she had once thought harmless, had only begun to show his potential. The solar flare had been a test, a moment that revealed his brilliance. And she knew deep down that many more challenges and discoveries were yet to come. As they walked through the glowing gardens, side by side, Lyra felt a sense of anticipation. The future of Xylaria had changed in just a few days, and she could see clearly that humans, with their curiosity, creativity, and courage, had a role to play in shaping it. Ethan was no longer just her husband. He was a symbol of the unexpected, the extraordinary, and the power of thinking differently. The night air was cool, filled with the soft hum of energy flowing through the city. Lyra and Ethan stopped at a small bridge overlooking a stream of pulsing light. Lyra looked at him, feeling a connection deeper than she had expected so soon. "You truly are unlike anyone I have ever known," she said softly. Ethan chuckled. "And I am learning just as much from you, Lyra. Your people, your culture. It is amazing. I feel lucky to be here." Lyra nodded. "Perhaps this is only the beginning. I wonder what else you can do." Ethan smiled mysteriously. "You'll see. I have many ideas." And as the stars of Xylaria shimmered above, both human and alien knew that the crisis had changed them, not just in the way the city operated, but in how they understood each other. The fragile, harmless human they had underestimated was no longer a simple guest. He was a partner, a problem solver, and perhaps even a pioneer in the story of Xylaria's future. The days following the solar flare crisis were filled with cautious celebration throughout Xylaria. The city hummed with renewed energy, the floating towers reflecting light in brighter, more vibrant patterns than before. Princess Lyra moved through the palace with a sense of pride and relief, but also a spark of curiosity. The human ambassador, Ethan, had not only survived the trials of Xylarian's complex society, he had reshaped it, offering solutions no Xylarians had imagined. Lyra had begun to see him in a new light. He was not simply a visitor from another world. He was someone who could challenge expectations and reveal possibilities hidden to those bound by tradition, and he was restless. Ethan moved through the palace with an almost childlike eagerness, asking questions and exploring areas even the most senior scholars avoided. On a quiet afternoon, he discovered an archive long forgotten in the palace's lower chambers. The entrance was nearly concealed by hanging vines that glowed softly with energy. Ancient symbols covered the walls, intricate patterns that had puzzled generations of Xylarians. To the scholars, the archive was mysterious and impenetrable, a record of energy experiments and devices from millennia ago. No Xylarians had fully understood it. Ethan stepped inside with Lyra at his side. "This place feels alive," he murmured. "There's energy flowing here, but it isn't being used. It's waiting for someone to understand it." Lyra glanced around nervously. "Many have tried and failed. The knowledge here is delicate. If you tamper with it, you could disrupt the balance of the palace systems." Ethan smiled faintly. "I'll be careful. I just want to see what it's telling us." For hours, he traced the patterns with his hands, feeling the subtle pulses of energy and observing the connections between symbols. The Xylarians, trained to read only what was directly visible, watched in awe. Ethan did not rely solely on logic or tradition. He experimented, combined ideas in new ways, and approached the problem from angles that no one had considered. Look at this, he said, pointing to a series of symbols. They're not just instructions. They're a map of energy flow. If we connect these nodes in this sequence, the system could store energy more efficiently than before. Lyra's eyes widened. You understand it differently than anyone I have seen. Ethan nodded. Humans often solve problems by trial, by trying what others might avoid. Sometimes patterns emerge that are invisible if you only follow rules. The scholars hesitated. Some whispered among themselves, skeptical. A human? Understanding the archives? Impossible. But as Ethan continued to work, a subtle hum began to rise in the room. Energy nodes glowed as connections were made, responding to his adjustments. Devices long thought inactive now pulsed faintly with light, their functions slowly revealing themselves. Lyra stepped closer, fascinated. You are unlocking their secrets. Without breaking anything, Ethan grinned. I'm just following the patterns I see. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the ones no one considers. Word of Ethan's success spread quickly through the palace. Scholars who had doubted him before now approached cautiously, offering data and insight. Ethan welcomed their input, combining human intuition with Zalarian's knowledge. Together they deciphered devices that had been dormant for centuries. Energy conduits that could enhance city systems, storage arrays that could preserve energy far longer than previously thought, and even transportation grids that could move resources more efficiently. Lyra watched him work, her admiration growing with every discovery. She realized that Ethan's human mind was not weaker than a Xylarian's intelligence, it was simply different. Where her people saw rules and limitations, he saw possibilities. Where they relied on inherited knowledge, he experimented, imagined, and created. One evening, as the suns dipped low, casting long violet shadows across the floating gardens, Ethan approached Lyra with a small device in his hands. Its surface shimmered, covered in intricate lines of alien energy. I've made a prototype, he explained. It uses energy storage in a way no one has tried before. If it works, it could power entire sectors of the city, without relying on the core as heavily. Lyra examined the device carefully. It looks delicate. Are you certain it will work? Ethan nodded. I've tested it in small increments. The design is stable, but I need your permission to integrate it into the city network for a full test. Lyra hesitated. Integrating an untested device into the palace's systems was risky. A failure could disrupt the delicate balance of Xylaria's energy infrastructure. Yet she trusted Ethan. His calm demeanor, combined with his brilliant intuition, had already saved the planet once. Do it, she said finally. I believe in your judgment. The engineers prepared the system, cautious but intrigued. Ethan guided them through each step, explaining the human approach to experimentation. Careful observation, incremental testing, and adaptation. Slowly, the device integrated with the city's energy network. Light shimmered brighter, grids pulsed more efficiently, and energy previously lost as heat was now captured and reused. The palace hummed with vitality, more powerful than it had been in centuries. The council, initially skeptical, watched in stunned silence. A human had unlocked secrets that Xylarians had studied for generations, and brought them to life in ways no one had imagined. Murmurs of astonishment filled the hall. Lyra felt a swell of pride. She had always known that humans had potential, but seeing it realized so vividly was beyond her expectations. She turned to Ethan. You truly are remarkable, she said softly. Ethan smiled, shrugging modestly. I just look at things differently. Your people have incredible knowledge. I just combine it with a new perspective. Over the following weeks, Ethan continued his work, exploring forgotten chambers, deciphering ancient devices, and collaborating with scholars. Xylaria began to change. Systems became more efficient, cities glowed brighter, and citizens marveled at the innovations. Many of the Xylarians who had once doubted him now sought his advice, realizing that his human perspective was a valuable complement to their own expertise. Lyra spent more time with him as well, observing his methods and learning from his approach. She realized that his intelligence was not only practical but also adaptable. He could think under pressure, solve problems with creativity, and inspire others to do the same. The human's reputation as weak and fragile had been completely overturned in the palace, replaced by admiration and respect. One afternoon, Lyra and Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Energy flows shimmered below them like rivers of light, a testament to the work he had accomplished. "Look at this," Ethan said. "Your people have built something incredible here." "I only hope I can add to it, not just change it," Lyra smiled. "You have already changed it, and in ways I could never have imagined. Your presence, your ideas, they are extraordinary." Ethan looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "I never wanted to outshine anyone. I just wanted to help, to see what was possible. And you have," Lyra said softly. "I once thought you were harmless. I was wrong. You are not just capable, you are inspiring." Ethan's eyes brightened. "I suppose humans have a way of surprising people." Lyra laughed quietly, a sound that carried through the balcony gardens. "Yes, you do, and I am learning to expect the unexpected with you." That night, as Xylaria's 3 moons rose, casting a soft glow over the palace, Lyra reflected on the past weeks. The human she had married, once considered fragile and harmless, had not only survived in an alien world but had transformed it. His creativity, adaptability, and insight had revealed strengths no Xylarians had recognized. The discovery of the ancient archives had been only the beginning. Lyra knew that Ethan's ideas would continue to reshape their civilization in ways they had never imagined. And as she watched him tinkering with devices and discussing energy flows with the scholars, she felt a sense of hope for the future. A future where humans and Xylarians could learn from each other, grow together, and achieve something extraordinary. Ethan looked up from his work, catching her gaze. "There's still so much to explore," he said. Lyra nodded, smiling. "And we will explore it together. I want to see everything you can do." And so, on a world of light and energy, the human ambassador continued to prove that being underestimated was no measure of true ability. Every question he asked, every device he unlocked, every new idea he shared was a reminder that humans could think differently, create differently, and inspire differently. Lyra understood that the future of Xylaria was brighter, not just because of the energy in its towers, but because of the brilliance of a human mind. The stars above shimmered like distant promises, and for the first time both Lyra and Ethan felt that anything, truly anything, was possible. Xylaria had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The floating towers now glowed brighter, their energy flows more stable and efficient than ever before. People whispered in the streets about the human who had brought new ideas and saved the city from disaster. Some called Ethan a genius, others a mystery, but not everyone was pleased. Inside the High Council chamber, a group of senior advisors gathered, their silver robes glinting in the light of the great energy crystals that hung above. They spoke in low, uneasy tones. "This human has gone too far," one said. "He plays with powers he cannot fully understand." "Perhaps," another replied, "but the results speak for themselves. The people adore him." "That is the danger," a third voice added sharply. "A foreigner should not hold such influence in our world. He must be tested to prove his so-called brilliance is not luck." The council agreed. They would arrange a public challenge. Something grand, something that would show whether the human truly understood Xylarian science or had simply been fortunate. The idea spread quickly across the capital, filling the citizens with anticipation. When Princess Lyra heard the council's decision, she was troubled. She had seen Ethan's intelligence, his patience, and his heart, yet she knew the council's pride was strong. If Ethan failed, they would use it as proof that humans could not be trusted with Xylarian knowledge. She found him in one of the palace's research chambers, surrounded by glowing tools and floating diagrams. He was deep in thought, adjusting a crystal device that emitted soft pulses of blue light. "Ethan," she said gently, "the council has called for a demonstration. They want you to prove your understanding of our energy systems." In public, Ethan looked up, surprised. "A demonstration? What kind?" "They want you to build a working model of a new energy system in front of them. They say it is a way to honor your success, but I know it is a test. If something goes wrong, they will blame you." Ethan smiled calmly. "Then I'll make sure nothing goes wrong." Lyra frowned. "You're not afraid?" "Of course I'm nervous," he admitted. "But challenges are how progress happens. I don't want to argue with them. I want to show them that humans and Xylarians can think together." Lyra studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. "You truly believe that?" "I do," he said. "And I believe we can prove it." The day of the demonstration arrived. The central plaza of Xylaria was filled with people, council members, scholars, citizens, and energy engineers. The air shimmered with anticipation. Floating drones recorded every moment, broadcasting it across the planet. At the center of the plaza stood a tall circular platform surrounded by energy conduits and crystal structures. Ethan stood there, calm and focused, while Lyra watched from the royal balcony above. The challenge was simple in words but complex in practice. Create a new form of energy balance using alien and human methods combined. The task had never been done before. The council leader, a tall figure named Advisor Varel, addressed the crowd. Today, we witness whether human ingenuity can truly match the wisdom of Xylaria. Let the test begin. Ethan stepped forward. Thank you, he said respectfully. I hope to show that we are not competitors but partners. He began to work. Using a combination of human technology and Xylarian energy crystals, he designed a system that would convert ambient light from the suns into usable power. It was an idea he had once used on Earth but modified now with Xylarian principles. He moved methodically, explaining each step as he went. The Xylarians, used to silent calculation, were surprised by his openness. This, he said, holding up a crystal sphere, is your energy core. It's efficient but loses power when exposed to high radiation. By layering it with reflective channels, something similar to solar mirrors, we can redirect excess energy into a stabilizing field instead of letting it escape. He combined the tools with steady hands. The sphere glowed faintly, flickering like a small star. A hush fell over the crowd. The energy readings began to rise, climbing higher than any known output before. But then just as quickly, they fluctuated. The light dimmed. A murmur spread through the plaza. He's failing, someone whispered. He doesn't understand the system. Lyra leaned forward, tense. Ethan frowned, studying the readings. He adjusted one of the channels and realized the problem. The Xylarian crystals were reacting differently than expected. Instead of panicking, he smiled softly. All right, he said under his breath. Let's try it your way then. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, visualizing the energy flow like a living pattern. Then he began adjusting the connections, improvising new pathways that no one had ever tried before. His movements were confident yet gentle, guided by intuition rather than calculation. The crystals responded. The sphere's light grew brighter again, this time steady and balanced. A low hum filled the plaza, spreading warmth and light throughout the air. Energy readings soared far beyond the council's expectations. The crowd gasped. The system worked beautifully. The air shimmered with soft light as the new energy balance stabilized, shining over the capital like a sunrise. Ethan stepped back, his face calm but proud. The key was not force or control, he said, addressing the audience. It was harmony. You can't command energy. You must understand it, listen to it, and let it flow naturally. Humans learned that lesson the hard way, but it's something we can share. For a long moment, there was silence. Then slowly, the crowd began to applaud. First softly, then louder and louder until the plaza echoed with cheers. The council members exchanged uncertain looks. Their plan to humiliate the human had failed spectacularly. Advisor Varel stepped forward, his expression tight but respectful. It seems we have underestimated you, Ambassador. Your method is effective. Ethan bowed slightly. Thank you. I only followed the principles of your science and added a touch of human imagination. Lyra's eyes sparkled with pride. She descended from the balcony and joined him on the platform, her voice carrying through the plaza. Today we have seen something wonderful, she declared. We have seen what happens when different minds come together, not as rivals but as equals. Let this day remind us that unity is strength. The crowd cheered even louder. For the first time, the Xylarians looked at a human not as an outsider, but as one of them. A thinker, an inventor, a partner. Later, as the sun began to set, Lyra and Ethan stood together on the balcony overlooking the city. The glowing towers reflected the golden light, and the hum of the new energy system filled the air with a calm rhythm. You were amazing, Lyra said softly. You faced the entire council and still stayed calm. Ethan smiled. I wasn't alone. You believed in me. That made all the difference. Lyra looked down at the bustling streets below, now filled with joy and celebration. They see you differently now, she said. Not as a stranger, but as one of us. You've changed how we think about your kind. Ethan gazed at the horizon. Maybe that's what humans do best, he said. We learn, we adapt, and sometimes we change how others see the world. Lyra turned toward him, her expression thoughtful. And you've changed how I see it too. I thought knowledge was only about logic and discipline, but you've shown me it's also about creativity and courage. Ethan chuckled. And you've shown me that structure and wisdom have their place too. I think we make a good team. Lyra smiled warmly. Yes, we do. As the first stars appeared in the sky, Xylaria's energy grids shimmered like rivers of light, their flow stronger than ever. The demonstration had not only proven Ethan's brilliance, it had united two worlds in spirit. In the days that followed, Xylarians from across the planet began to study human methods of creativity and innovation, while humans learned from Xylarian precision and knowledge. The exchange of ideas grew, and together they built new technologies that neither species could have created alone. And through it all, Princess Lyra and Ethan stood side by side, symbols of unity and progress. Lyra often thought back to the first day she met him, the quiet, modest human who had seemed so harmless. Now she knew better. True strength was not always seen in power or might, but in imagination, kindness, and the courage to try something new. The Xylarians had once called humans unpredictable. Now they called them remarkable. As night fell and the 3 moons of Xylaria rose above the glowing towers, Lyra looked at Ethan with quiet admiration. You've done more than prove yourself, she said softly. You've given us a new way to see the universe. Ethan smiled, his eyes reflecting the starlight. And we've only just begun. The night stretched before them, peaceful and bright. A sign of a future filled with endless discovery, born from the meeting of two worlds, and the courage of one human who dared to think differently. The palace had barely recovered from the first alarm when the next wave of attackers struck. This time they were not drones or minor scouts. The invaders were skilled, heavily armored, and relentless. Their ships had pierced the outer shields of the gas giant's orbit, and now they moved with precision toward the palace's heart. Marcus Hale stood in the observation deck with Queen Elara and the few humans who had followed him. His eyes flicked from the entry points to the palace schematics projected on the transparent display panel before him. They're more organized than the last wave, Marcus said, his voice steady. They know the layout. They know where to strike? Elara's luminous eyes widened. They are professionals, she said softly. Even my guards would be overwhelmed. Marcus nodded grimly. That's why we can't wait for them to arrive. We need to prepare before they reach us. He moved quickly, assigning small tasks to the humans. One group reinforced the inner doors with temporary energy shields. Another group monitored the security sensors, ready to alert Marcus to any sudden movement. Although most humans were not trained for combat, Marcus knew how to make every effort count. The palace walls vibrated as the first of the enemy soldiers breached the outer gates. Marcus could hear the low hum of their weapons, feel the subtle shifts in the floor as they advanced. Alien guards, still panicked from the initial attack, were nowhere in sight. The Queen clutched the edge of the balcony, her eyes scanning the corridors for any sign of defense, but there was none, save for Marcus and the humans he had positioned. They will enter the main hall in minutes, Marcus said. We need to slow them down. Every second counts. He moved swiftly down the corridors, activating security systems and improvising defenses. Panels slid from the walls, forming temporary barriers. Lights flickered, disorienting the intruders. Automated turrets, originally meant for palace security, were recalibrated to fire only at the invaders, leaving humans and the Queen safe. When the first group of enemy soldiers appeared at a corridor junction, Marcus met them head-on, not with brute force but with strategy. He triggered a trap that dropped a series of energy nets from the ceiling, immobilizing 2 of them instantly. Using the confusion, he directed the humans to move quietly behind a secondary passage. Keep low and follow me, he instructed. We're not fighting them head-on yet. We are guiding them where we want. The soldiers hesitated, confused by the sudden appearance of obstacles. Marcus's knowledge of the palace layout gave him an advantage. Every twist in the corridor was planned, every room a potential trap. Unlike the aliens, who often relied on strength or protocol, Marcus relied on ingenuity and observation. The humans followed him silently, their trust in Marcus growing with every careful step. They watched in awe as he manipulated the environment, using the palace itself as a weapon. In one corridor, he activated the floor panels, causing the enemy soldiers to stumble into a temporary containment field. In another, he redirected energy flows, creating blinding flashes that forced them to retreat. Queen Alara, observing from her balcony, felt a mixture of fear and admiration. The humans were supposed to be fragile, incapable of handling real threats. Yet Marcus moved like a shadow, calm, precise, and unafraid. He was nothing like the alien guards who had fled in panic. "They are clever," she said, almost to herself. "But he is extraordinary." As the enemy forces advanced deeper into the palace, Marcus noticed a pattern. The attackers were moving in coordinated groups, aiming to overwhelm the central defense points. They had studied the palace, but their focus on strength and numbers left them vulnerable to traps and distractions. He stopped for a moment in a junction overlooking the main hall, his mind racing. "We have to protect the Queen at all costs," he murmured. "And we need to make them pay for every step they take." Marcus led the humans into a small control room adjacent to the main hall. From here, he could manipulate doors, energy flows, and security systems to create maximum resistance. He set up a series of traps, sliding panels, energy pulses, and sound-based diversions. Each trap was carefully timed, designed not to harm the humans but to confuse and slow the enemy. The first intruder entered the main hall. Marcus activated a hidden panel, releasing a burst of blinding light. The soldier stumbled, tripping over the energy nets that Marcus had laid moments before. Another soldier fell into a containment field, struggling against the invisible force that held him. "Move carefully," Marcus whispered to the humans. "Do not panic. Follow my lead." The humans moved with precision, carrying out Marcus's instructions. They were no longer mere bystanders. They had become part of a coordinated defense under his guidance. Each step they took was calculated, each action deliberate. The enemy commander appeared next, a tall figure in advanced armor, leading the assault. His presence alone was intimidating, and yet Marcus did not flinch. He analyzed the commander's movements, predicting each step, each possible attack. The commander raised his weapon, preparing to strike. Marcus triggered another trap. A panel shifted beneath the commander's feet, sending him off balance. Energy nets ensnared his soldiers, slowing their advance. Marcus's mind worked faster than the commander could react, turning the battlefield into a puzzle only he could solve. Queen Alara, watching the events unfold, finally stepped forward. She had always commanded respect through her presence and authority, but in this moment, she witnessed something new, raw courage and tactical brilliance from a human. "He stays," she said softly, almost in awe. "When everyone else panics, he stays." The commander, realizing he had underestimated the human, signaled his troops to retreat temporarily. Marcus used the moment to regroup, moving the humans and Queen Alara to a safer position deeper within the palace. "Good work," Marcus said quietly, addressing both humans and trapped soldiers. "Every second we buy makes a difference. Keep your focus. We are not done yet." Outside, the sounds of the enemy fleet filled the space around the palace. Engines hummed, weapons charged, and a sense of inevitability seemed to hang in the air. Yet inside, Marcus worked tirelessly, orchestrating a defense that relied not on numbers or brute strength, but on intelligence, strategy, and human ingenuity. The humans, once frightened and unsure, now moved with confidence under Marcus's guidance. They had witnessed courage in action, and it inspired them. Alien guards, if they had been present, would have learned a lesson about the underestimated abilities of humans. As the night stretched on, the palace continued to shudder under attacks. Marcus remained vigilant, ensuring that Queen Alara was protected at all times. He moved from corridor to corridor, adjusting traps, giving instructions, and maintaining a calm presence that contrasted sharply with the chaos around him. Finally, a brief lull arrived. The enemy had withdrawn for a moment, regrouping their forces for another attempt. Marcus used the pause to check on the humans and the Queen, ensuring their safety and reinforcing their defenses. "You are unlike any human I have known," Queen Alara said again, her voice steady now. "Your mind, your courage. It is extraordinary." Marcus allowed himself a small nod. "We do what we must," he said simply. "Fear slows us. Observation and action save lives." In that moment, Marcus realized that this battle was more than just defending a palace. It was a test of trust, courage, and ingenuity, And though the enemy would return as they surely would, he felt confident. With careful planning, courage, and the ability to think faster than anyone else, he could protect the Queen, even when everyone else panicked. The enemy was not finished. The palace would face new waves of attacks. The alien guards had yet to find their courage, but Marcus, a single human among thousands of alien soldiers, had already made the difference between chaos and survival. And as he prepared for the next wave, Marcus knew one thing for certain: the battle for the Queen's safety had only just begun.